I eat less food now. That's right. I don't really worry about it, but I am eating.
So it does, it automatically subscribes. I just let it do it and I just hit the.
Good. This meeting went pretty good.
Not your
God, I couldn't come. I had to take the dog. Like today's crazy day. We've been with Bank of West.
good old days.
Changed the
Playing
Bank of
football.
Montreal. You can't.
No, I
Yeah,
like.
Yeah.
So,
You use a lot of your body.
and then of course I had to take rescue dogs.
Yeah, there were some funny things.
Running a meeting on it.
Yeah. Think so.
Well, just Mike used Bank of West as a sponsor, so I'm stick with
And I can focus on it.
They're here. Yeah, they've got a brand new branch manager. Showtime. Hey, boss. Showtime.
I already started meeting. You didn't hear me.
Telling me what we're gonna do if people don't come to these meetings.
I was just saying that this is really an important.
Right.
They have limited.
We have anybody on phone or?
That's probably Ian right there.
Ian, he probably can't hear you. Say that again.
Hi, this is Ian. I am on the phone.
You want us to wait 5 minutes till you get here, or
No,
darn it?
go ahead.
Well, we're glad you're on, at least on the phone, because tonight, like I was just saying to Terry, this is actually an important meeting because we need to make a recommendation to the city council about what we think should be the goals for parks for the course of next year. And of course, they're going to take what we have to say and hopefully put money behind it and staff resources behind it, and we can work with them to accomplish important things that need to be done here. So is that fair? Okay. So, all went through this process, and one of the things that we kind of held off on setting any goals because we felt it was important to get your feedback and look at this list and see if you felt like there were things that we actually missed.
While you're taking a look at that, Paul, do you want to approve the agenda and the minutes?
We can do that.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
For a second? Motion second to approve the agenda and the minutes, right?
Yes.
Do them both at once.
Any discussion, any debate on this motion? Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay,
Do you want to jump into goal setting first and move the other stuff to the end of the meeting since you're kind of on a?
Yeah.
We'll move the new business after 3.1.
okay. Yeah, let's do that. It was a good effort.
Yeah, I thought so too.
A lot of work.
All right.
It was fun. So I think at this point in time, really what we want to do is figure out of these, which are the, we didn't vote on these, so everybody needs to get themselves a pen. Come up here and identify where you think the five biggest strengths are, 5 biggest threats, 5 biggest weaknesses we have, the 5 biggest opportunities we have. So everyone go ahead and come on down here and just,
Right.
it's kind of an individual exercise.
And Ian, since you're online, if you want to you have the packet. If you want to verbalize, we can put some marks by the board. We haven't changed it from last meeting.
So Ian, we'll ask you last, okay? We're gonna let everybody mark their Yeah, there's five. You put five, your five, what you think are the five biggest strengths that we have. And then for each category, go with five. I mean, well, we'll get there.
Do combinations of check
Nope, just
five total.
five total. That's all you get. I'm sorry. I'll sell you one, but.
I was
Oh, go, keep that thought, but we'll be okay. I think we'll get where you want to be anyway. You go ahead and you can start on opportunities. There's no particular order you have to start in and, all you got your,
Working on it right here.
okay, you just come up here and put it up here.
Or you need one more?
You don't have to.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I
Actually, I
didn't
have
put the bottom
7.
one.
Actually, I have 7.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yes.
I think for strengths, I think the Crown Z Trail is a big strength.
Could you just hold off for a second? We're gonna go ahead and get everybody else's up here, and then we're gonna ask you for your five strengths, your five threats, and then we'll mark you last. Is that okay?
That works.
Okay, and then we're gonna tabulate them.
Yeah, alternatively, Ian, if you're ready to go right now, you could just email me. This is Isaac, and I can do it
Okay,
that way if you want to record them that way, if that's easier. Your call.
That'd work.
Yeah, let me do that. It's going to take me a few minutes
You
to
put
read.
in what you want, as long as we see it.
Ian, you can also put them in the chat. I can type them up here on my minutes.
Mike, I just have a quick question. With Jeanette being our liaison, would it make sense for her to have a say in this as well?
No.
Okay.
Because basically she advises.
All right, just asking.
Kind of crazy ideas we come up with. But if you guys want to, you want to give her a
Thank you,
vote.
JJ, though.
Oh, no, I was just curious. I think something else would be interesting, seeing as Charlotte's new here, is to maybe get her perspective on it, not necessarily vote, but I think that would be helpful.
by Kelly. I did it. Did Ian? Charlotte, you can help us.
Yeah. Yellow.
One.
You can go up and
Not trying to do it at the moment, but also.
'cause I think typically we pick,
Getting there.
usually with these, they pick.
Knows where there is. But my favorite quotes is W.C.
Whatever.
Fields. Says, any road will do if you don't know where any road will do if you don't know where you're going.
True story.
When Terry's done there, I think we should just ask Ian directly. I don't know that we have.
Okay, Ian, we're ready for you.
Strengths. What are the strengths, Ian?
Ian?
You'd be trying to email us.
Ian, are you out there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
All right. My phone was messing around with me. Strengths. I think that the Crown Z Trail. I think that we have a abundance of lawn spaces, maintained lawn. I think that the diversity of the park system and recreational activities.
Recreational, where is that? Lawn, I guess that would be lots of grass.
Yeah.
And then recreation, what was the last one?
Recreational activities.
That would be this one here, right?
Movies/recreation.
Okay. How about threats?
Let's see. Threats. I think that obviously I think available funding is a threat.
Okay.
And I think maintenance requirements and or amount of available labor.
Okay. Good. It's two.
Let's see. Available labor. I mean staffing.
Okay.
And lack of volunteers is probably a good threat as well.
Okay. You got one more?
Nope, I don't.
Okay. Pretty good. How about weaknesses?
Weaknesses. I think we're weak in our offering for teens and elderly.
That is
Third the way down.
right in here. Okay. Okay.
Utilization of public art.
Okay.
Outdoor court spaces.
Would be this one, right? Sports space or that's three.
And I would say trail connectivity.
Okay. And
Bear with me here. I think those cover the weaknesses. Yeah.
how about lack of volunteers?
That for sure. That's a weakness.
Okay, so I'm gonna put you down for that one. That'll be your fifth one.
Okay.
Okay, how about opportunities? What do you see as our biggest opportunities?
I think we have a good opportunity to promote and use the social media. I really like that one.
Okay.
Building courts. Strengthening partnerships.
Okay.
And development of event spaces.
Okay. Got one more.
One more, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at the agenda right now to see the board.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty close. You guys probably count them up if you want to. Top five.
Top five.
Five.
All right, so top 5 strengths are going to be 1, 2, 3.
Do them all. If you don't.
I just can't. I can't. Or purple.
Actually, I can help you. I'll start on this side.
Funny. I'll answer it as Joe's Pizzeria.
8, 5.
The yellow marks.
Okay. Okay. Looks like votes have been tallied. So the top strengths, there were 3 of them that received equal votes. One was DZ Trail Momentum. And second for one was well-maintained park system. Then 3 was movies, recreation in the parks. Those are the 3 top strengths. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 others that got 2 votes. See, Chapman Landing got 2. Diversity of Parks got 2. Community involvement got 2, and playground system got 2.
Do sports get 2 there?
What's that?
Do sports.
Sports. Yeah, you got 2 for sports. The strength. Okay. The top 3 were well-maintained park system, Back Trail Momentum, movies, recreation in the parks.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Please expound on these recreation and parks. I mean,
I think initially what they were talking about was movies in the park. I mean, because that's really the only thing. As far as recreation goes, I don't know.
Was, if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think somebody had said the opportunity. So not necessarily that there was a recreation program. There were lots of
strength.
It says strengths, so it should be under opportunities.
I think it was the like the space available for recreation.
So my interpretation was it was movies and recreation. And I think if you look at it, playgrounds got 2, and also youth sports got 2.
Okay. Okay.
Can I,
Kind of what.
Okay, so you have well-maintained park system and then you have down here ground system. I'm not sure if that's being the same or maybe you can also, you also have here
A little
first
bit.
of the parks and then you have a park called out, which is Chapman Landing. Wondering if way that.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to see Chapman Landing be a strength because I think that is an amazing spot.
My feedback is, well, first of all, movies in the park is amazing, but if it's also about recreation and parks, I mean, as far as
Like a lot.
in a city our size, I mean, it's not a strength. I mean, you look at other cities our size and you'd say, boy, Scappoose is top 5 in Oregon in recreation and parks. I don't think so. I don't think it's a strength. That's my question. Again, if you're looking at it from a purely like, okay, like this is stuff that we think is probably our most boastful and our most rich areas that we don't have to continue to invest in, or because we have so much of it. I don't know if that's the case.
Well, and I think too that I think movies in the park is different than recreation in the park. I think those are two separate issues. That
Well,
makes sense?
You know, we can kind of analyze this, but I think, you know, these are just people's ideas, and I'm not sure who threw
Okay.
that up there, but my
Right.
interpretation is that the movies in the, basically, we really get the most of out of our parks as far as recreation. A lot of big, good playground equipment. We the movies in the park, really that recreation in the parks.
I may have said something too. I
You think?
gave you credit for the August, that going all month in August.
Yes.
And that was the only thing, one of the only things that's actually on a park schedule.
Right. That's right. You had talked about a park schedule and the fact there is none.
Yeah, there is basically no park schedule other than.
Right.
That's why it was a strength. And
I thought it was because of
Well,
fun.
And I think this one here, this is
yeah,
one,
it was a compliment.
this is one I'm not sure I mentioned either, but diversity of parks. I think it gets back to Chapman Landing,
Right.
and it gets back to just that we have a variety of different parks.
Okay.
So I think that
Okay.
highlights that. So, okay, those are our strengths. So, in those strengths, for the opera, I think we're going to go to opportunities.
Question.
Yes.
Are you guys gonna be narrowing down 5 from each category or?
Well, kind of. It's kind of hard to do that when you only had people vote and there's three, you know, there, if you look at really everything that's 2 to 3 votes, I think is worth looking at.
Good.
What we're going to do from this is we're going to, after looking at this, okay, based on all this information, what are the priorities that we should be working on? Get there.
Okay. Trust you.
None of
You've done this before.
you don't. So, talk about let's go with weaknesses first. So what creation programs is a weakness? I
Yep.
think that gets kind of back to what Paul was talking about. So that's a weakness. A lack of funding got 2. A lack of strategic partnerships got 3. Those are the top 2. Those 2. Lack of strategic partnerships.
What about the one on the bottom? Isn't that a 3 by that or am I?
That is 3. Lack of volunteers.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see that. Okay.
So really, lack of volunteers, recreation programs, a lack of 3 votes, and then lack of strategic partnership.
Makes sense.
Then you look at 4th and 5th, got a lack of court space. There was that one. There was lack of funding. There was a lack of staff. Lack of overall branding.
Lack of fields too, someplace on
I thought it's lack of court spaces right here.
Oh, it's down in the bottom.
the fields.
Tucker Field's got one.
I did a combination on that one.
So anyway, it looks like, any comments or questions about any of this?
I think that is I think those points are a little more specific. So I think that's why you got more votes for certain things. And I think they all make sense.
The truth is, a lot of this stuff we didn't pick. It's important. We can only focus on time. City or the city. So those are our weaknesses. So given our weaknesses and the strengths that we have, what are the opportunities? And looking at that list, pursuing grants is three votes. Strengthening partnerships with the schools is 3, and that kind of counters the lack of strategic partnerships here. So that's an opportunity. Build more court facilities, fields. Is at the top. Pursue grants for Grabhorn, that kind of jumps back. I mean, got 3 and that got 3, so that's our top. Really, our top priority is to pursue grants and try to grant for Grabhorn.
Grabhorn should be way up on the list.
Absolutely.
So, what else got? Hire more staff. Promote volunteer engagement. Develop an environmental footprint. Got 2 votes. So anyway, so really,
Are we going to do the threats or?
yeah, we are. That's last.
Okay.
But I'm just kind of highlighting this. I mean, we talk about grants a couple of times. We talk about staffing a couple of times here. An opportunity. Volunteerism. That's an opportunity. So, and build some more facilities, and that kind of ties into grants a little bit, to some degree. So, what are the threats that are going to make it difficult for us to try and pursue grants, build partnerships, more facilities? Basically, the votes were number 1. What is that? That's a 5. So available funding was our biggest threat, and number 2 was staffing, lack of funding, lack of volunteers, lack of progress. It's kind of stalemated, and those were the top ones. Also, lack of community awareness got number 2. So that gets back to the social media issue. So and I think we got losing park space maintenance requirements. So
And I think the maintenance requirements are an interesting piece because really it wasn't until this last year I realized how hard Dave and the staff worked for movies in the park because we've grown so much. They really made a huge difference. But my concern is that when you have successful events like that, then you have issues like destruction of grass and those are real problems.
So looking at all this, like sometimes your weaknesses can also be opportunities. For instance, here you have recreation programs. That's a weakness. But over here, we have a lot of recreation in our park. Sometimes this can also opportunity.
The opportunity, how many votes did on designated sports facilities or?
Where's that at on the list?
Is that opportunities or what was it?
Opportunities and
Develop event space got 1.
I think it was strengthen partnerships, i.e. schools.
I got 3. That was.
That's big.
That needs to be kind of function, Park and Rec, because a lot of things that the school can do. So where are we lacking on what we should be doing as far as trying to develop the appropriate amount of fields? Soccer has no field, no designated field. A youth baseball is limited to certain fields. Girls they only have one field. That's kind of an important topic. There's so many things that we don't have any of. What can the school district focus on? What can we focus on?
So strengthening partnerships with the school, you think that's a
I
priority?
think that's very important.
And I think that's also in conjunction with having partnerships with PCC and other organizations that have funding and manpower to actually assist. And I know that to an extent, and Charlotte can probably, confirm this, but, David mentioned at the last meeting that he does reach out to like the Scappoose Bay Watershed and other organizations to assist. So I think that is a really important piece.
So, okay, so why don't we kind of start throwing out what we think are goals that we can identify that'll help us address some of these priority opportunities, your weaknesses that we have. That's so
Excuse me, I have a question. Is this a 1-year goal?
the 1-year goal. But what happens a lot of times is that they're carried over.
Some of them are long and some are short.
Yeah.
As Mike can attest, sometimes, that what'll come out is what we think, what the committee thinks is a 1-year or a 5-year. Sometimes it'll change up or down, shift, or it'll get changed a little bit by council.
What'll happen? So they go through this process every year, and what happens is this doesn't change that much, but what I'm thinking is, for instance, the opportunities, and I heard Terry mention it, is doing grants from Gravor, and I think that's probably
That's the top of the list.
And I agree, it is the top of the list. We've got a $750,000 match. It's really important to get that done.
that's our top goal. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Good with that.
So
What you, Paul?
I got a funny feeling it's going to be more in 1 year.
Well,
You're gonna get-
I think this is a very obtainable goal. My concern or is that some of these things have been long-term problems that we don't have a solution for, and so they never get on a list. So for instance, the lack of fields for certain sports, since I've been involved, have been the same list, and we don't do much about it, and it never gets on a list. So if one of our goals is, for instance, to these shortcomings that you mentioned for sports, if that was a real goal of ours, that doesn't mean we can obtain it this year. What it does do is that it puts it on a list to say when space becomes available, when we actually
Right,
whatever.
There are priorities.
Yeah, but I just don't want it to be like that's my concern is like after how many years of hearing the same problems, and then you look at it and go, well, we can't do anything about the fields right now, so it's not on the list.
So basically, this list becomes a group of action plans, which kind of lay out how we're going to accomplish them. And I imagine you're going to share that information with us. But basically, figure it out. And a lot of times, you put a goal up here, and staff will take a look at it and say, well, good idea. It puts it on their radar so that they can try to find the money or find the opportunity.
Right, like some of it might be a 5-year
Oh.
goal, and that's great as long as we agree. And that's why I was asking if it's just 1 year purpose.
Well, you're totally. Oh, it's kind of like the city identified trying to fix sidewalks. That showed up on the list. That they put together an action plan, and after about 3 years, then we're able to adopt a. You got to get it on. Got to get it on the list, like you're saying. So I think we're saying the same thing, and I wouldn't be surprised that at least half of these goals become 2 or 3 or 4 years. But
My big concern is we have about 1 year left to guarantee that money. I know we've got probably 3 options on the table, how we want that area to turn out. You have to start someplace, and you start with the dirt work.
Do the dirt work
Do
and
the dirt work and put in what you think you need to put in, and then I make a decision on what we can actually use it for and best utilize it.
Well, and I think that comes to a deeper problem, which is funding. You know, that is a real issue. As I've stated before, when I came on this committee 8 years ago, I thought every town had a Parks and Recs, department. And I was shocked to find out that that just didn't exist here. So,
so you
and
think that should be a goal that we look at? Is try to,
money, yes.
maybe try to help find more long-term funding for
Funding partners and work partners. Yes, that is an absolute, because
everybody.
otherwise it's blue sky.
Everybody agree with that?
Respond to a couple things really.
Yeah.
So to address your concern, Paul, these kind of prioritization things don't just hit the back burner. So like you talk a lot in here over the years that you and I bet about priorities and what you don't just like this. I had already thought about what this looks like. I had already thought about actually typing this up into a list, like a prioritized list of it. So these things do come up internally or in the committee, right? We can pull it back out and say, okay, we've identified these 3 things, but these are actually all the identified strengths, and this is where it lands on the list. In terms of Grabhorn, yes, we are going to be pursuing the grant this year. We have 2 funding cycles, so you're about 1.5 years. We won't have information on the actual grant requirements until January. We've already been in contact with the grant givers, and they said they would send information when they have it. So we have 2 cycles to get it, and you're right, you need to move on that. That is a priority. It's a council priority. I mean, we're hearing it here again, and it could very well be another priority. In terms of the funding, too, one of the approaches is that, as long as, I think with a liaison here, when you decide on the goals you want to send to council, you could also recommend to the liaison to take to council your own internal goals. Like if one of your goals is to look for funding partners and you said, hey, we want to work on this year, that's something council can be like, yeah, please do this. And as long as you guys are kind of working together, I think that would probably be an acceptable way to go about it.
Not make this too complicated. Got our goals first. That's what figuring that stuff out is part of the action plan. I will be glad to help you with that. But I think what we're trying to do is choose basic parks. The city really should focus their limited resources on. And those that I'm hearing across the board is funding, because I think we've heard time and again is that the park system we have is well taken care of. It's, our staff does a great job, but we don't have enough field. We need to grow it a little bit. It's kind of some opportunities that we need to pursue.
Excuse me, Isaac, how many grants did we apply for in the last, say, 3 years in Parks and Rec?
4 parks.
Yep.
I'd have to talk to Dave about that. I know we got a fairly sizable grant for Concomly. That was slightly more than 3 years ago. That was before I started, which has just been about 3 years. I don't know. He might have applied for smaller grants for playground infrastructure or anything like that. We can certainly find out and bring that back to you if you want.
I'll tell you what I know about that, Paul, is that, the thought was that we were going to move forward with Grabhorn, but then it kind of stuck in the mud a little bit. There was a lot of controversy, but you only get so many shots at these grants. One for a big one, I'll be there every year because I guarantee they're not going to fund you every year. So what we had done, we got a grant for this park, waited a year, and then second year we came back and we figured we were going for a grant, and so we were going to move forward with this, but given that we didn't have a clear sense of what we wanted to do with that property, the city kind of waited, and I think that was the perfect time for us to move forward.
Right. I think, can I just interject something really quick? One of the things I don't think a lot of people know is how many grants Mike has written over the years during being a city council, a county commissioner, with Forest Grove and all of that. And so I think we've got some real opportunities to take advantage of that.
So the thing is that, Mike, you're talking about these big grants, but there are many, many, many opportunities for grants in the smaller scale on almost anything that you want to say. For instance, ADA. We talked about some ADA access issues. There's grants for that. Bike racks, Bikes Belong has got grants. The Trailblazers do a grant every year. In fact, that built the playground in St. Helens 2 years ago. It seems like we are missing out on these things. They may sound little, but I mean, 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand. I mean, they're available.
But I think it gets right back down to staff. I mean, we don't have a quote unquote park staff that's dedicated to just parks. So
Well, I guess my
Parks.
question is like, I mean, was Yule in charge of grants or was?
So we didn't not look at grants. So the other data point I was trying to say was that we did look at other grants. So there was talk about the zip line. That came out of us looking at a specific partial funding grant for active adult exercise equipment. So they're like installations of like nut bars and things like this. We were looking at that. Did look at various funders over the years that I've been here. We just haven't we haven't had a project for it. It wasn't a council goal or whatever. So we do pay attention to what's happening. We do periodically evaluate what's out there. Probably not as much as you'd like to see. And as you stated, we really haven't had effect. But I do know, like, for example, the bike installation at Turtec, that was grant 95%.
yes.
We also did, just got grant funds for the security camera project.
So we have the security cameras in the parks now. Those were grant funded partially. But I think that what I would say is that identifying some of those grants would be something we definitely could use help with. Trying to find, saying that was one of, because again, you were talking about that could be very helpful. Like, hey, there's this grant opportunity. Or that could be accompanied. We received that, or this is like Mike said, that's pretty detail oriented. But I think I understand where you're going.
We're just wondering, is there anything we could do about it? We have an opportunity here for pursue grants, and then we've got a threat of available funding.
Correct.
And now we look at, okay, can we help? That's what I was trying to.
That's a great point for the council. There's no limit on the number of potential goals you can recommend. And this could even be another, just like a side that's not a goal, but it could be a discussion with council when you present them.
So I think it's probably reasonable for us to support efforts to grants,
Yes.
recognizing that we do have limited staff. As you said, I don't have any issue helping. I don't want to get in the day-to-day business of the city, but I help them with this stuff.
It'd be great.
I think all of us would.
Well, yep, I've gotten a
So-
lot of money.
So I think
stuff,
that
so.
if you've seen those, I think we need to bring them up and see if we can't figure out how to do them. And
Bring them to Mike and you.
but he could bring, he'd bring it to the committee, and then we would talk about it and see if we think it makes sense, or then we'd get to the Isaac, and then then you'd be our liaison. You'd go say, hey,
That was
great idea.
I have another quick question.
So I think that's a good partnership.
So my other question is, so when I was with the Arts and Culture Committee in St. Helens, we were actually able to do grants ourselves. So committee members were able to do that. Is that possible with Scappoose or no?
I don't know. We would definitely need to explore. I think that's part of the larger conversation is, if you're interested in helping, is how that help happens. We haven't really had a lot of opportunities to write grants before. There was the one for Common, but I think that's definitely part of the larger conversation. Given there's so much interest, I think I could see this becoming a recommended. That would definitely be part of figuring out.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like for instance, if I got a bunch of grants when I was working with the city of St. Helens with arts and culture, and obviously I wouldn't just go apply for a grant. I would say, hey, we can do this. You want me to apply and do it? So
Bring that. I'm not sure. Then,
you'd have to review it. Yeah, you'd have to give the. Can I do it? And if you say yes, and if no, it's okay.
Oh.
That'd be great.
Pursue grants. That's I think really what we're doing is we're kind of cutting that definition. we really kind of have two. We got Grabhorn, pursue grants for Grabhorn. That's number one. What I'm hearing is pursuing grants, this thing should be a priority as well.
I think Grabhorn should be, let's make sure we get Grabhorn completed. Means the grants, which means the design,
Right.
everything else. Like Grabhorn has to get done, like everyone is talking about. So
I
it's
think-
not just the grant. Everyone agrees with that.
Yeah,
I
you're
think
absolutely right.
we're saying the same thing. Complete Grabhorn /
Check.
pursue grants.
Charlotte?
Okay with that?
No,
Okay, so we got
Was it Grabhorn?
three
There.
grants.
He has his hand up.
Ian? Sorry for not seeing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I was just been a lot of conversation about grants. I'm wondering if you can summarize a goal just being identify grants and explore those funding. Just basically identify grants. What it sounds like we're missing here. That would be a goal, and then pursue ones if possible. That was poorly worded, but something in the form of identified grant.
How about if we put both words in there, identify and pursue?
Yeah.
You okay with that? So that's going to be our second goal. Our number one is to complete Grabhorn / pursue state lottery grant. That's the name of the program that we'll go after. I'm pretty certain.
The
State lottery grant.
the local government grant.
So,
It is funded partially with lottery dollars.
right. And the good thing is we have staff that has participated in writing 2 successful grants. That's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of competition for that. So, pursue long-term funding was another grant, goal. We got 3. What else do we?
Well, the strengthening of partnerships and, you made a good point about schools. That's really important. But I think that needs to be a broader thing, developing partnerships across the board that are going to benefit parks and the city.
Are you okay with that, Terry? If we just call it strengthening partnerships with key stakeholders?
ships is best.
So strengthen partnerships with, what do we want to call key stakeholders?
Yes,
Okay with that term?
yes.
So that might be Audubon Society. You've been working with them.
Yep.
With the county. With,
County with the Grand Ron tribes, with a number, my working with Fred Meyer, and once again, that's why I was kind of talking about the grant program. Walmart has grants that I've gotten, Fred Meyer, Weimar, they all have these grant programs that they have. Yeah, Betty Ford. Is that Betty Ford? Really? That's cool. Very cool. So I think that's why I'm talking about the whole idea of grants. It's not so much just the government grants, but with strategic partners that make sense.
okay, so I got 4. You know what's funny? I'm looking at this list and the bottom one, explore long-term funding options.
Yeah.
None of us voted for that.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yes.
Well, long term's a tough one for us to get after, I think, versus this bite-sized chunk of stuff that we're talking about here, which is actually obtainable by the group. So that's kind of my feeling why it was missed out.
Right. Well, and I think too, when we talk about long-term funding, I think what that really means is developing a park and recreation district or coming up with some kind of tax structure for property taxes to help pay for parks.
So you guys want to leave that up here as a goal or long-term funding options, or
I think it's an important goal, but it's just too soon.
you want to just say explore funding options?
I have a little bit different opinion on that explore long-term funding. I think it's more connected to the economic development for our city.
Yes.
And somebody mentioned more housing, more residents for tax revenue. I think long-term funding is going to be benefited more by more businesses.
Right.
People who live in the city.
Right. But I mean, traditionally,
So
go ahead.
Ian's got his hand up.
Ian?
Yeah, I was just, I raised it during the stakeholder meeting. I was just gonna say, identify stakeholders and strengthen those relationships. Identify critical or key stakeholders and strengthen those
So
relationships.
the number 2 bullet is strengthening partnerships, i.e. schools, and what we agreed to change it to was the strengthening partnerships with key stakeholders. So I think that gets exactly at what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I like the word identify as well.
Okay. So identify and strengthen. That could be an exercise. We could do a stakeholder analysis at a future meeting if you want. I
Great.
don't know if you've ever done one of those, but they're really kind of fun. It does help you kind of identify people that might be in a position to help you financially. So that's a great idea.
I don't think it's just key stakeholders, quote unquote. It's going to be different for every project. It's really interesting how a few years ago, the school district said there was no way possible they could do a turf field, and yet the community rose up and paid for it. I think with Grabhorn, there's opportunities with leagues and with individuals of, hey, right now we've got a blank slate. You can't pay for this, and we'll see who steps up, right? And we might find out, but geez, this league wants to pay for this, whatever. That's kind of,
Those are all,
and those groups will be completely different for another project. Right.
but they're all key stakeholders because they
Yes,
all
they're all key
benefit.
stakeholders.
They all
right.
benefit, and that's
But-
why we'll do a stakeholder.
But I
analysis
also, the thing I'd like to
meeting.
just elaborate with Paul's comment is that they're also community stakeholders. And I think that is something that is really lacking, that finding, not only key stakeholders, but community partners that have some real skin in the game. So, if there's a little league group that really wants a field, they're doing fundraising for those things, but they can also play a bigger part in making better fields for the kids.
From what I know about soccer, there's a lot of kids involved in that too. So I would think they would have money for their own field.
Well, at one point in time, they had money that they were going to help with Grabhorn, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
That was one of the options.
Okay. Good. So that gives us what? Four. We have pursue grants, strengthen partnerships with key stakeholders, identify and strengthen, excuse me. And then we have pursue grants just for Grabhorn. That's our top one. And explore funding opportunities. Is that, we're going to take the long term out of that, right?
Yep.
At some point, we're going to have a conversation about that.
Yep.
So that's 4. Any other obvious goals that we should be looking at here?
I do. I'm not exactly sure how we got here, but why don't we have recreation programs at all in the city?
Because we don't have a Parks and Recreation District.
Not
to
every
support it.
city has a Parks and Rec district that have recreation programs. I'm talking about simple things, not, you don't have to go deep into something, but I mean, an adult basketball league, for instance, that plays on Thursday nights, like these kind of things. We don't have that. And I think the community wants things like this. Can could that be a goal? And secondarily, is there a reason why we couldn't? Well, so for instance, our good friend over here is doing the same thing in St. Helens, things like
Well,
this.
My opinion is that city does not want the liability of programs such as put on a basketball program or something additional. We want all the liability to go to the league, the soccer league. So what I've experienced, the city wants no liability.
So the city of St. Helens or the city of Scappoose?
City of Scappoose. That's why I took
Well, but their rec program is funded by taxes. So I know that because I was on their committees. And so they have a very healthy tax base for Parks and Recreation. That's why they have a rec program.
They have a park district, correct?
Right, but what I'm asking is so for instance, this is something simple. Is there a reason, like, we literally can't do that in this, I guess you're the representative of the city. Sorry, Isaac, to put you on the
No, it's
spot.
fine.
Is that a reason because of liability?
So Terry did come to us and he said, hey, I want to do this under the umbrella of the city. And when we consulted with our legal team, they said, hey, there's some pretty big risk associated with having youth interacting with adults, interacting underneath the city's, because we're talking broken bones, there's background checks that have to be done that we're not doing right now. So it was really a legal risk. He is right. That was essentially what it is. There are emails. Is it a complete no forever? No, but I think that we have to evaluate them as they come. JJ's right. We don't have that tax revenue that a district has dedicated, and our SDCs are very low. Help fund some of this. That said, I think that we're not trying to like put a chilling effect on ideas.
Well, let me just, is it possible? I mean, another possibility would be to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeanette or Isaac, but isn't it possible to propose that is something that is budgeted for in the city budget, or can you even do that?
That's a really complicated question.
Well,
I think that would be really hard to answer right now.
Okay.
Again, I think the discussion can definitely happen about, hey, we're interested in this. That could be a conversation. Most certainly, that can happen.
Well,
if you want to.
but at the end of the day, when I used to work here, one of the challenges we had was trying to reserve space in the different gazebos. And we didn't have anybody that could do that, mainly because then they had to be around on weekends and collect fees, and then we picked up liability, so we just put it online.
Right.
But again, it takes us probably a full-time staff person to kind of manage all these programs. And
Right.
I think that's a. I think
so, are you going to lay off a police officer to do this, or I mean,
I think that's defeatist attitude. I think if we just
Realism.
started small and said, for instance, he did pickleball and he had to go to St. Helens. Okay. We have a blanket insurance, obviously, for recreation. People use our playgrounds all the time,
That's
right?
not insurable. It falls under a personal liability. That's
Okay,
So wait, let me just ask something else about that. So, and then what about being indemnified because it is a park activity? Because that was another.
if they do it without our sanctioning, yeah, there is a recreational immunity. Like when you go to a park, recreate on your own or with a sports league, there's an automatic indemnity that comes. But if as soon as the city steps in to organize or to promote these things, like officially take them over, then the recreational immunity goes away. That's so I think that.
No, I was just saying is I understand where Mike's going, but that's kind of like the bigger picture. A very, very simple thing is like we're to try. I'm asking if it's possible because we're Parks and Rec and our recreation is very, very lacking.
I think that there could definitely, like I said, I think there could be some mechanisms we could use to help promote things private or not city held. I think that would be acceptable. The hard part is when it becomes an official city operation,
Function.
is when we start seeing these other issues come up that make it more challenging for us to be able to do things.
To give an example, actually, I just took a call from someone from the it was I can't remember if it was Boys and Girls Club. I think it was Boys and Girls Club, and they expressed they asked if we had a space where they could put on some sort of programming. And I don't know whatever came of that. I think they were looking for an indoor space. But the point is, there could be a partner that could run some sort of recreation, be it Boys and Girls Club or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever.
An organized basketball group using our space, right? We can give the space.
It's a private, but it's a separate entity. Yeah.
But as long as that is not this entity, that city organizing it, that is doable.
So up here is a weakness. We had recreation programs got three votes. So
Right above it is recreation scheduling. Equally as important to not have any programs, but we don't have any schedule that even preserve the parks or reserve a field or no structure.
Fields are you talking about reserving, just school fields, or, I mean,
People reserve different parts of the parks and.
So like a gazebo or,
We do have a system.
We have
where
a
we
new,
just
yeah.
updated it.
A new software,
No.
to make it much easier now.
And all those events that go on there are automatically put into the system. Things like, don't believe that the like long-standing hold on the Little League fields up there are put on the calendar because they're actually not available at that time automatically. So those aren't listed. But like, if
Okay.
I was to rent one of those spaces for anything, it'll go up on the schedule. We did just do a big project to get new scheduling software. I'm not sure what the integration looks like on the website. I'm not. Again, we can find out. We can even bring it and demo it here if you'd like.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, I'd love to see it. When I looked at it, there was only 5 things. I think Union and
It's generated by users.
so how, you guys want to put that up as the goal to maybe explore recreation programs / scheduling opportunities?
those hand in hand.
Does that work?
Yeah, because we might crack the nut on this.
And then maybe
Yeah, most
part of
certainly.
as part of that, he can come and we can see what we have and then figure out what we need to add. Fair enough?
Ian has a question, but, is, saying to put it as a city goal
Yes.
and implement programs.
We recommend it to you guys as a goal. All these we're going to recommend to the council and you.
that Man them or take over organizations as a, or as.
We're going to,
That will be discussed, right?
Yeah, so I think this process generally, he does some kind of an activity to look at what goals were set last year by council. What has the city done since implementation? What have they learned or thought about over the year that makes them want to see a new change? And they identify those changes broadly, right? We set those as goals. So each one of these things is something they've identified as something they think is important. They've heard their stakeholders say is important, and they offer them to council as potential council goals. Say, here's what we think that the city should focus on the next couple of years. So then, and you would adopt.
and then you,
These are very big, broad.
Yeah.
then you look at them and say, that's stupid. We don't want to do that. And then so we
I
don't.
guess I'm not clear what
work
I'm
on it.
asking. So because the discussion was, from what I was hearing, is that why don't we have more of these activities and then like there's liabilities, insurance and so forth. So what exactly are you under?
I think what Paul was looking at was dependence. I think what I got from Paul's question was, is this even a possibility? Because if it's not, I think one to, and he can speak for himself. That's the way I see it, is it's the dependency. And discuss it, or if there's a major barrier that changes the discussion. By me saying, well, we might have an access or an avenue to do this, that gives a little more life to that.
And so basically what we'll say is, we don't have very good coordination of scheduling and programs. And we think that we need to take a look at it over the next year and see if there's ways we can improve that. And that's
Changing meaning and
No. I mean, they might say, has to be an individual, blah, blah, blah. We might say, okay, if we can get the scheduling complete and better, and if we could promote that there is an opportunity, we can get individuals to say, you know what, we've got 30 people that want to play basketball. Well, great. Okay. So, and then we can put that on a calendar eventually, right? And that kind of stuff. It's not a city thing. We helped get it going. We helped get it going.
right.
Produce the activities to go on the
Yeah.
calendar. Coordinate.
So we put together a plan. We find out the flaws and the opportunities and.
We have a hand up.
Ian, you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm slightly confused. Are we asking the city to explore mechanisms for city-run recreational programs as a goal for them? Take that goal back to them and ask them to explore? Or are you literally saying this committee is gonna find ways and bring those ways to the city?
Basically, we're what we're gonna do is recommend this as a goal, and if the council adopts it, then we'll probably explore what kind of scheduling and programs we have and where there might be some gaps, and make recommendations to the council about ways that we think we can kind of address some of those. Is that fair? You get it? So it's like the rest of our goals. We're going to work on it and try to help. The staff will work on it and they'll keep us apprised. But in this case, what we're hearing from staff is that there's some different things that are going on right now that are kind of focused on trying to address scheduling of different activities in the city's parks. And we're going to have a conversation. If the council adopts it, we'll have a future conversation about what that is and ways that we think it could be enhanced. And I guess kind of back to that social media question that you raised in the past.
What I'm hearing, I think maybe by answering question. So I wrote down to create recreational activities, these calendar to encourage community involvement. Maybe not.
It could be any number of things.
Oh, you want to take a shot at it?
I don't think we can crack the nut right here because that's going to solve the problem. The problem is that as a parks and recreation group, recreation is lacking. And we want to determine why is that the case and what can we do to help facilitate it. And there might be some legal things that we need to jump around or move around. There might be some other things, and there might be some scheduling problems. Our goal will be to make it to increase recreation for the community. And then we don't know how it's going to turn out, but there could be a number of things that we can fix or make it better to allow recreation to happen. It's not necessarily saying that we're going to run leagues or the city's going to run leagues.
So trying to get clarification.
Seems to be many. Yeah. Well, there seems to be many reasons why it's not happening right now. Off just the top of our head, we got scheduling issues, we got some legal issues,
There
whatever.
could be issues we just don't know about because we haven't really had the discussion. So I think this is a catalyst to have the discussion.
Then figure out a plan. How do we address it? Or maybe it's too big and we can't address it.
Right, maybe it is.
You're asking.
Yeah. We're asking you to
Thank you.
recognize it as a goal, and if you do, then we're going to dig into it.
Staff, right? We work at your direction. If it's not a goal,
Yeah.
basically, we can't make independent policy decisions. It's on that. Graham?
Plus, we don't want to.
Just kind of setting those directions for staff for the next year about what we're going to focus our time to spend budget on. That's all essentially.
The staff only has so much time. We only have so much time. Ian, does that address what you were looking for?
I think it does a little bit. It's a little bit broader and an open-ended goal.
So that gives us 5 goals that we've selected tonight. Are there any others that we might want to?
Well, I mean, I think we need to, one of our goals is to create more community engagement. I am really happy to do movies in the park and I involve a lot of community partners, but I don't see that happening with, other things. And I really believe that, we've got Community Club, which has been working with us for a very long time with the movies in the park. And I think by building that kind of community building, we can have better events. We can have more participation and more ownership. I think that there's a real disconnect with that.
So how would you describe that as a goal?
Developing strategic partnerships and community partners.
Would you add on that in support of community events?
And in support of community events and activities. I mean, some of the things that you guys are talking about really involves a lot of people that aren't going to get paid to do it. And so there has to be a way to engage people. I mean, Scappoose, it's like you've got a lot of people moving into Scappoose that are from Portland that are not what Scappoose was years ago. I mean, Scappoose is one of the wealthiest cities in the state of Oregon. And so, there's there's people with families and they do want to participate and they want to help. I mean, I know at movie night we always get people coming up going, "Hey, how can I help with this?" And it's really great. So, but there's no real catalyst for that engagement.
How would you describe it? Oh,
I think it's real. I think it's an overarching thing that we should be working on with all this. I don't know if it's just one goal per se. If you want to talk about events, that's another story.
Well, yeah, no, it's not just about events. It's about developing ownership for the community, developing ownership for these parks. The more that you develop those kinds of relationships with people in our community, the more they're going to participate in taking care of things because it's their park, it's their event, it's their, trail. So it's a different mindset where rather than it just kind of being this ambiguous thing, they actually have ownership in it. Years ago, when we were talking about the Crown Zellerback Trail, one of the ideas that I talked about was actually getting different nonprofit groups to sponsor cleanup portions of the trail like they do for roads. So you could have the garden club, take a portion of the trail to do cleanup or beautification. And it's those kinds of things that you develop ownership and a sense of
so you're talking about
volunteer engagement, but that's how you do it.
to promote volunteer engagement?
I think it's absolutely essential.
Okay.
And it is lacking.
I think though it goes even further though, which is why about the recreation programs, it's like, well, if we had, let's say a basketball program, I don't say we have to have that. We've got people going to the gym. I've never been to any of our gyms here ever. Okay, maybe for one basketball game, but not to play. But if I had, let's say, played on Thursday nights, and they go, you know what, we need a new roof here. I'd be like, oh, geez, I use this all the time, and that you'd be engaged, right?
Right.
Same with if you had walks on the CZ Trail or something like that,
You want to
right?
take out invasive species. You want it to be
Right,
beautiful.
right. So like that's I think what you're getting at is right.
I'm a little.
No, so what I'm saying is like that's why I don't know if we can make it one goal because it really is overarching with all this stuff that we're talking about here, right? Developing recreation programs, it's strengthening our partnerships. It is
Right.
community engagement.
Right. It is community engagement. I mean, one of the, real strengths of Movies in the Park is that it's been, something that I've done for 6 years. Mike talked me into it 6 years ago. But, it's my ability to create partnerships with the library, with Fred Meyer, with the community club, with the senior center. In fact, I had a policy early on that when people set up booths there, if they're nonprofits, they just got to set it up. There's no cost because we wanted them there to be a part of the community. So it's, and of course the Watts House, and and the police department. And doing all of that has allowed us to have a really great event that maybe costs us $6,000 a year.
So I'm trying to cut to the chase here, and what I think I hear is that we need to promote volunteer engagement in community.
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about?
Are you guys still Movies in the Park, right?
Yes.
This group also Earth Day,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm just doing that. I'm not going to speak for the council as far as like in observation. Listening to you guys because the economic development committee also does the big step for support event, which was the Venture Fest. It might change to something else. I'm not sure. So wouldn't it be something like that just for both of the committees to get together and support each other in these 3 events?
Well, I think that's a real good point, Jeanette. I have been to the Economic Development Committee meetings. I think one of the challenges that I see in those meetings is that there are a lot of people that come and talk to people at the committee, but I don't see anything really getting done. So somehow that either needs to change where they limit public comment and develop goals. But yeah, I'm friends with Paul. I'm friends with Christine. I really support what they're doing. Frankly, I have worked more with the library because Jeff is so good to work with, you know, and he just gets stuff done. And that's the other thing too. If you're going to have, you know, volunteers like myself or Jeff or Mike, these are people that have to make it happen, that have to, you know, get that going and create that excitement.
So regarding the events, I don't think that the Parks Committee was officially involved in movies in the park.
Yes, it was because I'm with Parks.
That doesn't make it official, though. I just.
Okay, well, it was on the billboard.
But yeah.
We had it on the billboard and we said they were involved,
We're
so.
heavily involved. I don't really
I think
know.
we're officially involved.
I don't think that the committee had it.
Yeah.
As for EDC's involvement in Venture Festival, they were supposed to help us. There's a discussion about goals and what's going on with that. And that's that we really, I do actually need to cover that.
Okay, we got 6 goals. What do you think?
Good.
Accomplish these 6 will be.
Ian?
Huh? Ian?
Oh, I was just listening to this volunteer conversation, and I'm wondering if is there policy we can ask to help empower the community members to create more volunteer opportunities or excitement to volunteer in the way that's we're talking about? Is there any policy thing that we can make into a goal?
I don't know if there is, but once upon a time, this committee adopted a Friends of Scappoose Parks committee, which was a way to try and solicit volunteers and donations. And the committee really didn't take hold, and but it was a good idea, and maybe it's an idea that's worth visiting. I don't know. It's the Scappoose Parks, and those are the volunteers could help with events or with different projects in the parks or with finding funding for those. It's a thought. Does that answer your question? Anyway,
Yeah, it does.
is there any other goals? I don't want to rush anyone, but any other goals that we should talk about?
Well, I mean, I actually think Chapman Landing needs to be a goal. I don't know. It's so important. And it's such a beautiful spot. And now the Audubon Society is excited to be a part of it. It's the only waterfront place you've got in the city. That's it.
What do you think?
Question about that. I was out there a couple days. But been a lot of work done by the city out there this year. What are you looking out of that park?
So, I mean, with that park, you know, making it more friendly for nature and wildlife, and also, you know, taking away more invasive plants. You know, specifically what the Audubon Society did on Sovies Island is that they actually took on 2 parks. They took on the Oak Island Trail, which is a 3-mile linear loop around Sturgeon Lake. And then they also did the Wapato Trail, which is about a 2.5-mile trail around the pond in there, but it also goes along the Multnomah Channel. What they did was they removed invasive species. They enhanced wildlife habitat by having native plantings there. They also provided information regarding species to look out for. And they also did other innovative things, like they actually created a duck blind where you could actually get behind there and watch wildlife and not disturb them. So.
Been out there in the last 2 or 3 months.
No, I have not. Oh, you're talking about, you're talking about, yeah, I have. No, they have. I was out there 3 weeks ago with the Audubon Society. Yeah.
I thought they've done a lot of work. All kinds of wild.
Yeah. Well, you're right, but there's more that can be done.
JJ?
Yes.
I haven't heard about the Audubon project yet. Can you describe what's going on?
So there is no project at this point. They're in discussions. So I've been meeting with the Audubon Society to partner with us regarding parks enhancement for wildlife and for removal of invasive species, and to just make it more friendly. I mean, one of the things that because I've hiked the trail quite a bit, but some of the things that I see are a lot of people bird watching. Especially this time of year. So now you're entering into the flyway where all the geese and the swans come in, and so that is a great platform for viewing. So yeah, and that's really important. The other thing, just a side note, on Sovies Island, I don't know how many of you have been out there. There's a big wildlife viewing area, and there used to be a big pond, but now it's actually all dried out, which is odd. And so you actually have to look through to Sturgeon Lake to actually see it. But I mean, you literally have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of birds migrating, and that is part of the flyway. It's extraordinary.
Yes.
Wasn't all of these in master plan? You guys go through it for these-
Yes, but those are limited based on it being a dike. So this is an opportunity that allows us to look into the possibility of recreation. I mean, not recreation, but reclamation of wild lands, and also just making it a lot more user friendly by removing invasive species.
Let me make a suggestion. I've heard for years South Chapman Landing is this crown jewel, but it's also a hard nut to crack. I think it'd just be a goal to create a plan and a timeline, whether it be 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. Here's where we see it, and get Dave, of course, involved. Everyone, that makes sense. This makes sense. Just because right now we're talking, things got done. Did they not get done? Whatever. A strategic plan for Chapman Landing, I think, would be a good goal.
It's a difficult part.
Understood. So that's why we need
Yeah.
to create a plan. If that's one of our goals. You guys agree with that?
I think it's a reasonable goal. It is going to be difficult. I would vision a state for the Corps of Engineers a couple times on that, and we actually hired a designer to look at opportunities, and it's be fairly complicated. Really marking.
Having it on paper.
But-
I think then we'd have a shared understanding about.
Yeah, but
Again, that's council determine if that's
that was
it's going to be in the parks.
that was a priority for the county or for the council until we purchased Grabhorn, and of course, because of resources, it kind of slipped. But I agree with you. In the meantime, they've done a hell of a job of painting it. It looks really good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, we'll put that on as number 6 or 7.
What
Any
was
other,
what was the verbiage on that one, just for my note?
pursue next steps for Chapman Landing?
Create a strategic plan for Chapman Landing.
Okay. Everybody okay with that language? Ian, does that work for you? Okay,
I'll
I'll take,
when you guys are done, I'd like to have Charlotte feed off the verbiage of equal, make sure that it's exactly what you were hoping it would be. Make sure that when we officially make this document a recommendation, it is what you are
okay.
recommend.
So are we good?
Yep.
This has been fun. You guys did some good work.
Still gonna talk about her Adventure Fest.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to. Council really wants us.
So we're going to quickly go ahead, Charlotte, and you can
Okay.
read the goals, and we'll.
And I do have these in order, I believe, of a priority. So number 1 was pursuing grants for Grabhorn Park. That.
Yep.
Um,
Well, would it be pursuing grants for Grabhorn Park or actually following through on the
well, that's why I was a little. That's why I wanted to go over 'em with you to make sure that they're.
is it pursue
Exactly
the
right.
grants or actually finish the grant for Chapman for Grabhorn?
There's 2 that are very similar. So maybe if I
I think it was pursue the grant to develop.
develop.
Grabhorn was what I heard. Okay.
Okay, and then the next one is identify and pursue grant opportunities. Generally. Okay. Third one is identify and strengthen partnerships with key stakeholders. Fourth, establish funding options. And fifth, increase recreational opportunities for the community. Fifth is, I'm sorry, that was fifth. Sixth is increase volunteer engagement. And then the seventh is create a strategic plan for Chapman Landing.
Now, the one funding, we had options. Should it be options or opportunities?
I thought you already have, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead and say that again.
Opportunities makes more sense. I said establish funding options, but opportunities,
Pursue
We all good
funding
with that?
options.
Okay. Oh. Amazing, you can take a word full of all that scribble and come up with this fairly coherent. Pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good effort by everyone. Any thoughts from our liaison or from,
Yeah, I've been trying to get as
no? Okay. And so then the next step is that you guys will decide if you agree with them, and if you adopt them, then
I asked
well, that's why we're going to send this young man here to,
We're gonna definitely invite
he's going
you to come.
to tell our story. Okay. So we're glad to, I'm sure, know that JJ loves city council meetings, so.
There is actually an opportunity in the code. Council has the chair or vice chair come to the council meeting in December and talk about what's been accomplished this year by the committee. Opportunity to talk about what the goal recommendations are. Conference with the council directly so that is coming.
Okay.
Staff's helped kind of draft up some of that in the past for the memo. You can do that again. You could write it on your own, or you will be invited. And
Great.
talk about what's happening.
Had one question relates to what you're talking about, I think. At the beginning of the year, it looked like the Parks and Rec had approximately 700,000 budget. I'm trying to figure out 700,000, what is the Park and Rec accomplish?
I think if you wanted, we could add that as an update item to the next agenda, because I think it's a pretty big topic about, and I imagine it'll probably bleed into funding and what our funding streams are for parks. So I think that would be a really good agenda topic.
I mean, I'm just curious. I'm just look at $700,000.
What's going on with it?
So,
What we actually.
Yeah, I think a month would give Dave some time to look at it and figure out where the budget's at, where things. So, I think that could be an agenda item if the chair wants it on there. I know next month we have Casey coming to talk about signage.
Okay.
And pretty much it.
Okay.
We could add that if you'd like.
Okay. We ran down the 6, 7 goals. Do you want to quick? Yeah.
I trust you guys.
Okay.
Move on. I'll be brief with the Adventure Fest if you want to jump to that. We don't really have a parks update.
First of all, do we have a motion to?
I make a motion to extend the meeting
And to adopt the goals.
and to, oh, sorry,
Uh,
and to adopt the
Fine.
goals.
Charlotte? Second? Okay, we got a motion second to extend and to adopt.
Favor,
Those
aye.
in favor?
Okay.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Okay, let's jump into next item.
All right, so I'll try to be quick. I went to council 1 or 2 meetings ago to talk about Adventure Festival, to kind of brief get council to see what they wanted to do about next year. One of the councilors asked me to go to the committees and said, hey, let's get some feedback about the event. Let's talk with the committees about rebranding. Paul's been through this. So in all fairness, because he was at EDC, in all fairness, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk about the 3 buckets I was hoping to get feedback into. before I have you dive into those, I will talk about where EDC went with this, because I think that has some bearing on the discussion here. They gave us some feedback, and then they kind of went in another direction. So the three things that I wanted to get from these was feedback on the 2023 event, specifically on that event. Wanted to talk about essentially kind of rebranding, renaming the event. There's a feeling that Adventure Fest is not fit the event, what it is. And so council wanted some feedback on that. And then I personally wanted other feedback generally. Where this ended up going with EDC is we had some very pointed discussions about sponsorship, marketing, event construction generally, who was involved, what was the purpose. And what that turned out to be was that general feeling from EDC that this event should be community led by community groups. I missing. So right now the event is put on entirely by the city. We budget it, we plan it, we figure out how to make that work. Right now that mechanism is hiring an event coordinator to do that. Part of that is mostly because we don't really have a staff member that has enough time. Where I started with economic development was I asked, opened the floor up and said, hey, I would like feedback on the 2023 event. And the conversation went naturally from there. So if we want to do that again, I'm happy to do that. When it but yes, feedback specific.
So I did not attend the event, but I got a lot of calls and complaints about the event. That people appear, and I guess they just call me because I do the moves in the park. So they claim that the event planner was not communicative, that things were poorly organized, and the day of the event it was so hot. It was in August, and people just left, and so and also that it's. And let me just interject here. So the idea of Adventure Fest was actually my idea years ago. I had met with Scott Birch and talked to Mike about this. And the idea was to actually create an event that would deal with everything that was outdoor related in a really family friendly way. So that would be camping, that would be hiking, cycling, kayaking, fishing, stuff that you do in the summer. And then basically you would actually hold that event early in the summer, or even late spring, so that you could attract vendors that are wanting to sell product to that event, or groups that are involved in those types of activities, and really generate excitement. And then I really didn't hear anything about it. And then the city had taken over Adventure Fest, and that, at least from what I've heard, that's not what has happened. So I think making it a community-based event, I think simplifying it, and frankly, using an event planner, it's like you can go to Don's Rental and get a lot of stuff, and they're a local company, and you can just manage it better. And I'm happy to help with this, especially if we can take it back to something that's much more community driven and much more in sync with what I think this event could be. And if I was going to rename it, I would probably just call it Outdoor Fest. And I think a really smart way to do it would be to actually do it in conjunction with the Scappoose Farmers Market. You could do it in late May or early June, and you could have it the same day as a farmers market. So you've already got that foot traffic, and then you build on it. And I talked to Paul and a number of other people that volunteer, and you came up with a great idea of incorporating mushrooms and mushroom hunting. And I mean, and those things are really relevant to our community. The Scappoose Bay Marina is amazing. And you've got Next Adventure renting out kayaks. And they were actually one of my clients when I had radio stations. And so, being able to develop those kind of partnerships, Fred Meyer, Bimart, all those companies are selling camping and outdoor equipment at a very set time. And so, and the caveat to that is, well, what if it rains? And when we did Earth Day, we actually had a contingency rain plan in case that happened. So we reached out to Columbia River PUD and other organizations and said, if you can loan us tents, if we need it, if it's going to rain that day, and also be able to use the meeting room. That would be, really helpful. And I think you do the same thing with Outdoor Fest. You can also, the other thing you could do is you could work with the Audubon Society. Now, the Audubon Society does a Wild Arts Fest every year that is phenomenally successful. And one of the things that they do, which is really cool, is that they go after authors that write hiking books and camping books and how-to books. And they come on site and you can have autographed books. But more than that, you can involve the Boy Scouts, having them talk about different skills with camping and outdoor activities. And it makes it really relevant. And by having it one day, during the farmers market, you have a chance to really test it out without spending much money. And it would work. I mean, I know it would work. And it's just a matter of, coming up with the different parts of it, which isn't that difficult. You go after REI, you work with Audubon, you work with some of these other companies that I talk about. They can set up booths and sell their wares, and then you can have people that are experts at like setting up a tent. How do you go out camping? I mean, because these are really questions that people are thinking about. When summer hits, it's like, well, we want to do stuff with the kids, we want to do stuff with we want to be outdoors. How can we accomplish that? And this would be a great way to do it.
Can I pull on what you mean by community-based for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or are you saying we should find a community group to take on the responsibility for this? Or are you saying
I think
that we're willing to take on the responsibility?
I'm willing to take on responsibility. I've already talked to the library. They're willing to help. I've already talked to community club. They're willing to help. And I don't think we'll have any problem finding people to help make this happen.
So specifically, it sounds like you're saying you would plan, coordinate, do all the sponsorship,
Yeah.
volunteers.
Yeah.
Because they're really, that's a very big departure. I mean, I think that in the past we've had some issues with staff time to do things, and so you're saying you have a nonprofit or a group that would do this outside.
How'd you know?
Actually, I was on the Carl Festival, 100 year,
And we have Mike. Right.
they were all of us together. It could be done.
Yeah.
They get it done.
Right. No. And I'm not saying no. Not by any stretch. There are plenty of people that I've already reached out to that are very interested in it. And I have done thousands of events. We just say that. Owning radio stations, working in radio and TV.
So why don't, Paul, do you have any feedback? I mean, we were talking about the event, and do you have any comments you want to share?
Well, as you all know, I did make a public comment at the city council meeting, and I sent you guys a text of it. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it's pretty much in line. Is that the community? It's about getting the community together, and we had an amazing. I personally had an amazing experience with the Centennial, and the planning and the actual work to get it done was probably more fun than the actual event. And it's how I met everyone in the community. I was talking to Jeanette about it today. And Mike, that's how we got to know each other. And this whole thing about bringing the community together, that's what it's all about. Right? And so I would wholly agree with what we're talking about here, that making it a community event, and there are people that are ready to help, and other people that we've never even met before that we will meet, we're friends with.
Well, it's funny too. I mean, it's like, one of the things that we did 2 years ago is that when Chief Lugelbeck, he's great. I mean, I've really been able to work with really great people. And, they want to promote the police department. So it was like, okay. And then I went to Grocery Outlet and I got them to donate, all the food. And then I said, well, can you guys grill? Yes, so it's a great, it's more than just, having community partners, but it's really having ownership with these things and helping these groups. Because if they get that kind of exposure and it's really positive, that is a really great thing. And, it was the same thing with Earth Day. I mean, Earth Day, I worked really hard on that because obviously I worked hard to get charging stations for us here in the city of Scappoose, which did happen. Thanks very much to Michael Sykes and my undying persistence in getting it done. But it's this idea that you partner with community partners in such a way that it's really beneficial for them. Another case in point is like with movie night. So because we didn't want to just give away food at movie night because it would be mayhem, we charged 50 cents for each hamburger and hot dog, and then we gave all that money to the community club. And now that's their biggest fundraiser. And so and they're up there setting popcorn. And so, I've got a good relationship with these people. And like I said, it's not a whole lot of work. I mean, it's just a matter of coming up with a smart concept that makes, people want to engage and be a part of it.
So in your thoughts about the event, who's if the city of Scappoose is the quote unquote owner of the event now,
Mhm.
the quote unquote owner of the event under your concept of what could happen or what.
I don't know if the city of Scappoose needs to be the owner of the event. I think the community needs to be the owner of the event.
But who specifically is a group that's going to put it on? Because it does take a very group of people that commit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess my question is very specific. Like right now, council has made a goal to specifically be owner of the event. They have a goal specifically to do Adventure Fest, put staff time into it to make sure that Dave has staff to clean the park, all these things. So,
Mhm.
so like very specifically, like who is going to be one responsible? Is it still the city, or is it an outside group? Is it just what?
I think it's an outside group with city assistance. I mean, it's important to have the city participate, but like with the Centennial, it was community members, it was neighbors that actually put it together, and it really was great. And by doing it early in the season, I mean, the reason I talk so much about climate change is that we're in an El Nino, so that means next summer is going to be hotter probably than we've ever seen it. So doing that earlier in the season gives us a better chance to not have people not participate because of the heat.
I'm really interested in this. Is that okay if I keep?
Okay, wait, Jeanette has a question.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just going back, so just when we were planning the event with um, coordinators, the issue was because there was money transaction, there was checks, sponsorships. At the time, the city did not want to have it under the city, so that therefore it had to be an association, which I think
Community club?
community
Not,
club,
not for Adventure Fest,
right?
not
That
for
was
the Centennial.
For the Centennial.
the whole.
No, not at the Centennial. The Centennial was put on by the city. There was a concern about.
Right, right. And so the thing is that there was an organization that had to fit.
Yeah, and we could actually do that through the library because that's currently what we do.
And so what I'm hearing, I'm sorry, I had to leave early the meeting. So you're saying, Isaac, if I clarify, in the meeting, it will be that the city funds those money.
Where that's how it happened at the Centennial.
That would continue. That was it.
Yeah, and
So-
that's perfectly fine.
So Terry, you got anything you want to share on this? Or,
Well, I'm all in favor of things locally. All in favor. $1,000. Work out is
It's
I don't know that it didn't work out. I think that there are definitely things to do, but 6,000 people showed up and 5,950 of them didn't say anything about it.
I don't.
So I agree. There's always room. to
I don't agree with
I
that
think that's-
number.
I think that's beyond the pale.
well,
I know very little about the event, very history about it.
There are definitely some things that are problems that
Well-
are valid for sure.
I have a little bit of history with some of this stuff, but I go back to the Centennial, and that was an amazing undertaking. And our cause was that we tried to do an event in two parks. But then we had the history piece, which just sucked a lot of time. We tried to do too many things, but then we hired Redway because we didn't have enough volunteers to do the project. So that's my concern. I think there needs to be personally, I think the city needs to keep this event. And let me just tell you, go back 4 years, the city didn't put a dime into any kind of community events. Dime. Go back 40 years, they didn't put a dime in. I was in charge of the powwow. It's bigger than any of the events I've seen around here. We had to pay for the reserve police officers. The city has really stepped up in a major way to help fund this event because, as we talked about here, one of our big problems is the lack of volunteers. And so, I think my personal opinion is I think the city should keep oversight of the project and have a advisory committee to help whoever they hire to do the event because it's a lot of work. That to me makes the most sense. But
So if you look at the other two cities that I referenced in my, which is the Bronia,
No,
right? Yes, sorry, and the Garlic Festival in North Plains, they are run by the community, and the city does give them some money, but it's run by the community, and that's why they have such. I think the costs are so low on these events. Secondarily, the staff time of Isaac, especially when it's like he's a middleman, is probably pretty exhausting because he's kind of trying to be between, the community help, but also the event planners. I've been involved personally with JJ, with some of her events. I think she's talking about like just a little bigger and better Earth Day type thing that can grow over time.
Right. I mean,
Not necessarily being
blow it all out there. Yeah, because I mean that's
Ian?
really how it happens.
Ian's got his hand up. Go ahead, Ian.
Oh, I was just gonna say I went there with my family this year, and I have school age kids, and we enjoyed our time there. So I agree. I don't think there should be a blow up thing. There's always lessons to be learned, and I think that's kind of what we're discussing here tonight. I just wanted to give kudos. I thought it was a fun time.
I went through the event, thought it was fine. My frustration was that there wasn't enough involvement by community members, and I think that if this committee worked with whoever we hired to kind of organize some of this stuff and help put a local flavor on it and give volunteers an opportunity to be involved, I think it would have been a better event. I think tweak it on this.
Well, and I think the other thing is it's $90,000. I think that's way too much money to spend. And frankly, I mean, I actually went and checked out Treadway's ratings, and it's like they're all 1-star ratings. So it's not just the city, and so that's a problem.
Maybe we go out for RFP for somebody.
I think an
provide it.
RFP and gets yeah.
But seriously, it takes a lot of volunteers to do an event like this, as you well know.
I just think I think it's tough to say we didn't have volunteers at times because volunteers need to be activated. They need to have a stake in the game. You can't just like, oh, we volunteer. I mean,
Right. There has to be a
Yes.
call to action. Well, and that's why I think it's so important that you scale it back. You still have the city do it, but you start out small, you rebrand it, and then you make it something that can grow. And you can, it's just like, I mean, I've done marketing for so many companies over the years, and it's this idea. And I've brought companies to market very successfully. And it's like you do a soft open. You go, okay, we're going to do this, and we're going to see how it works. It works in other things, and you do it on a smaller basis, and then you can always grow.
Well, I'm
Ian?
going to clarify about Treadway's ratings, and I'd really like to push on that. So I'm looking at the ratings right now, and their average rating is a 4.5 on Yelp, a 4 on Google, a 5 on Facebook, 5 on Bark, 5 on Thumbtack, over and over and over. So I don't know that that's 100%. So maybe there was some.
Well, but actually, the Google ratings, all the 1 stars have been
3.9.
well, actually, but all the ones the only time they started getting good ratings was 4 years ago. I guess
Ian?
that's the point.
So in the last 4 years, they have been able to garner. And I'm just saying a statement that their 1-star rating is not accurate.
Okay, Ian? Ian, do you have anything else you want to add?
No comment. I just didn't pull my hand down after I put it up last time.
Oh,
I have
okay.
a question. So, is it the fact, do we have a community, like, so the other communities have these as community events? And why wouldn't we have it as a community event? I mean, that would take Isaac off the hook, it would take the city off the hook. I really don't, I mean, as much as Isaac, probably loves doing this thing, I don't think he'd miss it that much, right, Isaac? Like,
I don't think the city's objected to that.
yeah, so, I mean, why, do we not have the community group that's interested in running it? Do we know?
The community club ran the sauerkraut for 12, 13 years and they got burnt out and they quit.
Okay, but,
So then the city, because they wanted it, plugged money in to try and rekindle it. That's how that came
At
back to
EDC,
life.
I heard that the community club was back in action, that you had been in contact with them, specifically JJ, and that they were ready to go on this as the group to do whatever an event for the community, not necessarily an
Yeah.
adventure festival or whatever we call it.
Yeah, if you do it out.
They got what, 6 members?
I don't know. When I heard from Brian last, it was 3 not connected members, but JJ evidently was in contact.
I've been in contact with a number of people that I've worked with in movie night, and so they're all, very interested and excited to work on it.
maybe we can't solve this right here. Maybe we just gave the feedback and then we should go back to the table.
Right.
And, no one's talked to the outside world about this.
Right.
Like this is the first I've heard of it pretty much. I want to help out.
Right.
And I'm sure others would want to help out.
Yep.
Or maybe not. But we could.
But
don't need
let's
to
just
solve right
talk
now.
about time is of the essence. And just the point to Isaac, I mean, I know what you're saying about ratings, but it was concerning to me that with the Google ratings, that it was all 1 stars until over 4 years ago when it had higher ratings. So I don't know if something happened in the company or not, but that is really concerning for me. And, the idea that you spend that kind of money to put on an event, it's kind of mind blowing for
The
me.
first year when we did the Centennial, we raised $85,000. The event cost, what, about 90, 95? Pretty much break even. And I think the reason why we did so well is we had a community
Right.
involvement. So I think hybrid is what I'm looking for.
Right.
Not necessarily, but I really don't want to see the city walk away from it. I just think that, for sustainability, and been watching community events for 40 years and they come and they go.
Mhm.
And so we're actually fairly fortunate to have a city that's wanting to support this and volunteers. When you got a town that 92% of the people work somewhere else, it's hard getting good volunteers. And we might be successful this year. I think we could, but just a little cautious. That's all.
The solutions the last 2 years, in my opinion, have been fiscally irresponsible for a town our size and for the event size. And so we're spending the citizens' money. It's a lot of money compared to 2 other festivals, which are much, much better than ours. Sure, they have the history. Maybe they have better people behind it or whatever. But I just think we have to give it a chance. I don't know if we can decide right here at this table.
Yeah, so I have post EDC. I had already emailed the mayor because they had asked me to do this before we got into this discussion. They'd asked me to do this data gathering back to them.
Mhm.
Asked him what he wanted to do about this because I assumed I would come tonight and I would hear from JJ, hey, yes, I did say these things. I am interested in doing this. My assumption, and that's kind of what I've heard very broadly and generally. So I emailed him and said, hey, this is what happened. Was at EDC, this kind of came up. You had asked me back. How do you want to proceed? So what he wants to do is have me come back with the data. Council can have a discussion about what they asked me to bring to them and listen to your feedback. And then they want to have a discussion about if they want to have another meeting. So I think he is interested. He said right now, literally have his email up. Said, council discuss and then potentially invite everybody back at the next meeting. So the second meeting in November or the first meeting in December, give information and proposals moving forward.
Okay. And then I just another question. And so then you used to work for Treadway, correct?
A long time ago.
Okay.
I have not worked for them for
There
years.
you go. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
We're wrapping up.
To be really clear about that, because that has been a point of discussion. I convened with legal counsel.
Okay.
There's not a conflict of interest. I do not currently work for Treadway. And council that's why we bring this event to council every year, specifically to have them.
So, okay, that helped? Was that good feedback?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I heard was that, there's interest in a more community-focused event or community-led event. Paul is very interested in having it be a community-only event, so ran by a community group, directed by a community group. Mike is saying, I think the city needs to be involved, and JJ is saying that, she's willing to take this on in some capacity to coordinate and lead this, more or less.
And I'd love to see, I think there's a community event or a community group out there that would do it, but I don't know how many years we tried to get the community club to take back the sauerkraut, and then we even tried to encourage people to join that club and handed them out at the annual town meeting, and we just couldn't get enough volunteers. And like I say, it's my big worry is having enough people there when you have the event. If it's not a real big one, you can make it happen, but I think.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
So,
He's on a diet. Yes.
yeah.
August isn't a good time.
Well, it's just, and that's the interesting thing about movie night. It's like one of the advantages of that, because I gave a lot of thought to it because I am very concerned about climate change and we are seeing warmer temperatures. But the great thing about Heritage Park is that you've got a water park, you've got a library if people need to go cool down, and it's happening in the evening. So it works.
So you're talking about more of a sauerkraut kind of festive event.
I'm talking more about a sauerkraut type of a festival, but something that we do in conjunction with the farmer's market because it already has a lot of foot traffic. So we've got a way to do it to where it's manageable and you can always grow it.
You're talking about like late June.
I would say May, June. I think, I think that it's like, once again, you come up with a rain contingency plan, just like we did with Earth Day in April.
Oh, well, it used to always be the third week of June.
I think that's great.
So
That might be a really good suggestion.
anyway, any other comments for?
Birthday again, remind me?
April,
It would be the same.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's kind of like, at least the things that I've put on, it's really, because I find really great people to work with, including Mike. It's pretty straightforward now, but it's coming up with that format and testing it out in the community, and then it's about expanding it once you've got it figured out.
Anything else for the good of the group?
Yes. I can go after Terry. I'm not a member.
More question.
Okay.
Anybody know about tree tack, trees coming down?
Yeah.
Happening.
That's not so I've noticed that too, because that really impacted the way that trailhead feels. So the other side of that road is private property.
Private property, and so nobody.
But I think I know where you're going because I drove out there to go on my daily walk at lunch and it was highly disappointing because it doesn't feel the same.
Has a beautiful area.
So they cut it down along down the creek.
They're grading.
All the trees from
Protect the
Okay.
area.
right there, right.
Oh, that's so sad.
All those trees.
Freeman. Quick points for good of the order. Just a reminder, we will be in touch about the December council meeting for the chair to come or vice chair to come and do a report. Oftentimes, the SPRC cancels the December meeting because of its proximity to Christmas. It is a December 21st this year, which is 3 days before Christmas. Might be worth considering canceling that meeting. We can do that in November, but I just want to put it on the radar for you.
What day would it be in November? What date?
November 16th.
Okay.
The December council meeting would be earlier,
For the
much earlier
4th and the 11th, yeah.
the 4th and the 11th.
Okay.
Council already canceled our third meeting. That's all. Just consideration of canceling the summer meeting for you, since that usually comes up. And that's all.
You can extend it.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.